large multinational analytics company, and we look to your team as an excellence point to model a lot of our business against. The second thing for me that's particularly exciting is that I was in a similar situation to you in that I had a very large 45+ person operations team that helped me roll out what we did with marketing automation and advance towards where we were trying to get to with RPM. And that's poignant for me because I'm in a much different situation today. About a year and a half ago, I took the trip to San Francisco. I started at a startup where I was the 19th employee, not the 19th employee inside of a marketing organization, but the 19th employee overall. The playbook that I've had, that I work with, the pill that I chose to take, the red pill 3.5 years ago with my marketing operations team, is still the truth that I believe can be seen. But operationally, it's much different to think about employing marketing automation and RPM in an environment where you may be the first and only person that understands some of the principles of how you can see success and masterful success in the space and how it impacts your business. So when I showed up on day one at Involver, I sat down with our CEO and I sat down with our head of sales. I said, guys, here's what we're going to do as a business. We're going to focus on the next 6 months, the next 12 months, and we're going to find ways that us as a business, although we're small today, can put in a foundation that allows for lubrication, allows for scale. And I imagine that many of the synopsis that I came up with are probably similar to what many of you are seeing today. I think Joe mentioned that the penetration of marketing automation and RPM broadly is around 5%, which would mean that the vast majority of the people that are in this audience don't have experience running it. But these scenarios are probably all very true for many of you. When I came into Involver, we, in our marketing and sales organizations, spoke completely different languages. The concept of marketing leads, the concept of marketing qualified leads, the concept of sales qualified leads, they just didn't exist. But on top of that, our sales organization, while forward thinking and leaned into Salesforce and used that as a tool for optimizing their business, operated into a hunt and peck mentality. They'd actually show up every single morning and they would, whoever was first in the office, pick the leads that they found to be most effective, at least they thought would be most effective, and they'd go out and they'd talk to them. And on top of it, the challenges that exist when you're trying to scale, when you have a team that operates that way, is that they really try and kind of roll their own. And that's a little bit about the way that startups work. You hustle. You try and find the ways to create the best story, but that story is not very repeatable. And on top of that, you've got a challenge from standardization, from data. When you are starting from scratch, oftentimes you don't have a baseline. You don't know where to get a baseline, which makes experimentation, the ability, the capability, the muscles to get better, completely improbable. So I sat down in the same meeting and I said to my CEO and the head of sales, we're going to embark on some significant investments in building up our skills as a company around marketing automation and ultimately get us down the path to RPM. We agreed as an executive team that that's the way that we were going to move our company forward. But what was really a funny moment for me is when I said, by the way, as my CEO, I'm going to take half of the paltry marketing budget that you've given to me and I'm going to invest it in people and technology. I went out and I worked with the Eloquat team and brought them on board as one of my first investments in a startup because I knew that that investment would pay off over time. What we've seen as a business is impressive, and I'm going to show you some of the statistics in just a moment. But what we have practically, what we have very practically, is now a sales and marketing organization along with our product team that's very aligned on the definitions that exist in the core aspects of our business. We talk the same language as a team, which is incredibly important when you think about scale and when you care about scale. We've been able to, and this has nothing to do with technology, organize our business processes so that when we talk to our customers, we know who's responsible for it. We know when the marketing team needs to engage, we know when the sales team needs to engage, we know when our customer success team needs to engage. This is not about technology, this is about business process. What you would also imagine in a team that's completely brand new or when you're starting in the space is that you're very unorganized about the way that you produce content. Business process alignment, coupled with technologies like marketing automation, RPM, that are provided by companies like Eloquat, I'm a big fan, provide you with the capabilities to create consistent content across your entire funnel from marketing to sales, and that provides scale for you as a business. What's really exciting for me, coming from the analytics world, is that I care quite a bit about the data that I get access to, how I can actually make my business better. And using the tools that I have available to me from guys like Eloquat allow for me to actually do that. So we run our business with data. So proof's in the pudding, obviously. I want to share with you some of the statistics. So a year and a half ago, we started this journey. 9 months ago, we did a full implementation at our company at around 45 people. Over the last 3 quarters, we've seen phenomenal growth as a business. From a sales attainment perspective, we've hit huge numbers of overachievement, quarter by quarter. And in fact, This is not just linear growth. We're seeing exponential growth. In this upcoming quarter, we have confidence that we're going to beat that 157% number, which is exciting for me as the head of marketing contributing to it. In the automation space generally, if you're contributing 20 to 30% of your revenue in your business, 20 to 30% from marketing, and you contribute that to your efforts, that's pretty great. And we are incredibly proud as a business that not only can we measure, but the marketing organization is providing demonstrable results into our business. Plus 50% of our bottom line revenue, greater than 70% of our pipeline comes from the work that we do and the efficiencies that we've gotten because we've implemented marketing automation and RPM. For me, as the person responsible for both product and marketing, what I didn't expect to see that's really exciting is that when you begin to align the way that you communicate with your prospects and your customers, and even inside of your organization, you start to see gains elsewhere. It is bottom line results that we all care about. The growth from a product perspective is really exciting. In the last 6 months as a company, we've grown 400% to over 500,000 customers now using our platform. So who's us? I've kind of neglected to talk about that. I work for Involver. We're one of the largest social marketing platforms in the world. Companies like many of you that are in here come to us to help take what you've built across the open web and bring it into the world of Facebook, to take those core business processes that have been incredibly difficult to maintain over time in Facebook and make that easy for you. We've had a lot of growth as a business, and we're really excited about that. We invented what we call the social markup language, which helps companies like yours that have great front-end developers actually create pixel-perfect designs inside of the world of Facebook and not have to worry about Facebook changing what they do, because it's not going to break. Some of the validations for our products, which we're really excited about, SML as a platform has been adopted by not just tens and hundreds of global 1,000 brands, but also by Facebook themselves. We've actually signed multi-year licensing agreements with Facebook and trained them on how to use our platform. But that's enough about us. It's not really the importance of the story. What we care about is being able to provide you some of the best practices that we've seen in this space for a company that's our size. So Christine talked about it. That first step of sponsorship is critically important. And as a business, we feel like we did a good job of aligning ourselves around what we consider to be the optimal sales and marketing funnel for us. It's maybe a bit of an eye chart. It's okay. If you find me afterwards, you can find me online. So my contact information is here. I'm going to put this on SlideShare. You can get access to it. Having access to best practices in sales and marketing funnel alignment, I think, is a really great first step to start thinking about making the investments here. But I'll tell you that technology aside, this initial business process alignment was massively beneficial for us as a business. When we started to layer in technology, the credible gains that we saw were even more impressive. So alignment of business processes followed directly by investments in some of the basic foundational nurturing principles of B2B marketing in our space saw humongous results. And I'll share that in just a moment. But what I'll also talk about, I'm going to share this a couple of slides on the road, is that we don't think about nurturing, and we think this is a best practice, especially as you think about the evolving social enterprise. Actually thinking about your sales team as a part of your nurture programs is really, really important. Adding nurturing automation for us, first step after bringing technology in, after aligning business process, increased our conversion and our acquisition funnel at the top end of the funnel by a full percent, coming from a fractional 1%. For us, that translates into greater than 100 sales qualified leads a day that our sales organization has, and these are qualified, sales accepted leads. So this is a pretty exciting investment for us, and we expect those type of gains can be transitioned outside of our industry to other industries as well. Our next step for investment after nurture and automation is really into the basic concepts, and Christine touched on this as well, in lead scoring. Foundational lead scoring investments will make credible gains to your business. We've seen it in a small organization that's growing. We expect that it can be found pretty much everywhere else. For us, what we're really proud of is that we have 100% contribution to their quota for our entire sales team. It's not a median number. Our sales team is massively efficient, and we don't just believe that's because we have great people. We believe that's because we have foundational systems and business processes that support marketing automation that drive the fundamentals of our business. But we are a social company, and we sit in the social space. We have 500,000 customers that we work with, so I thought what I would also do is spend some time to share with you some of the best practices around the concepts of marketing automation and RPM and how they transition out into the social world. About 10 years ago, 12 years ago, SaaS as a deployment vehicle really came to be popularized by the development teams. Many of you probably work with your development teams, and you've heard them talk about Agile and Agile software development. But the principles of Agile software development were created not because they just wanted to be created. They were created because there was a disruption. That disruption was SaaS. That disruption was the ability for a software developer to push their product out, get immediate feedback from the customer, and then make smaller changes, augment the product roadmap over time. Marketing hasn't had to deal with those types of changes until the last couple of years. And I'm here to tell you, if you haven't heard this before, social has disrupted the business that we're in as marketers. It's not disrupted what our end goal is. We need to add bottom line revenue. We need to continue to engage with our customers. We need to grow awareness for our companies. But it has disrupted the business processes for which we have known and taught ourselves and been taught to operate in over the past 100+ years. The biggest difference that we have now is that we've got the capability to push content out faster and get feedback faster than has ever existed historically, at the type of scale that we have today. So what can we do in marketing, especially thinking about programmatically nurturing all of the prospects and the customers that you have? You can think about the agile principles that exist in the software world. You can take agile and you can bring it into marketing. You can create cupcakes instead of whole cakes. Your chances of finding that perfect cake down the road by introducing different flavors of cupcakes over time, and by the way, taste just as good as a big cake, are much higher than going away for 5 months and creating the perfect wedding cake and bringing it back and giving it to somebody. Software, agile development, is finding its way into marketing. Really relevant in this world today. The second is, and this was a really interesting finding for us as a business, our landscape changes dramatically. The plates that we sit on top of that traditionally you would expect in a business to be fairly stable are constantly moving, working with Facebook and Google+, and you name it, all the different platforms that are out there. So what do we have to do as a marketing team to adapt to a world that's changing as fast as the one that we're in today? Very explicitly, think about our customers, including our sales organizations as well. We've found that by employing some of the basic practices of lead nurturing and scoring within our sales department, we're able to get a better view into the likelihood of our sales organization to have high success rates when they engage with our customers. Very simply, we understand what our salespeople are doing and we understand what our customers are doing. As a marketing and sales leadership team, we're able to optimize the type of content we deliver. That really interesting new practice for us, I think applicable outside of just the social space as well. Seems logical to say, be where your customers are, but the practicality is that even over 500,000 customers that work with our platform, most companies are not bringing their core business practices out into the social world. Today's keynote was all about the social enterprise. The social enterprise is about taking your core business and making sure that it's relevant in all the different channels where your customers are. Take the core business systems that you have built into your infrastructure, Salesforce.com, Eloqua, and extend them out into the social world so that the value exchanges that you're trying to drive with your customers don't have to take place by bringing somebody into an environment that you control, like your website. About 9 months ago, we felt as a business that we needed, because we are a B2B business, we needed the opportunity to bring our products, our core business out into Facebook. And so I asked my development team, help me figure out how to connect Eloqua and Salesforce into our core platform and make that run on Salesforce. About a week ago, we introduced a plugin in our application suite that lets Salesforce sit on the web app forms out in Facebook. So it's really easy to get caught up in the idea that social has nothing to do with your business. It's just about engagement and connections and community. The reality is you need to focus on making sure that you're bringing your core business out into the world that your customers are in. Last concept is a bit more of a lean forward, but it's something that I think is important to think about when you're introducing campaigns into the social space. Qualifying with social is, in essence, using the same practices that you do with automation and nurturing. You're trying to find ways that you can interact with different types of content, find value exchange that give you a higher probability to understand if that particular prospect is going to turn into a customer. In the social world, predominantly the lines of communication have been back and forth, and it's been simple calls and responses. But the availability of, with HTML5 and other types of technology, is introduction of richer content, whether it be polling, whether it be videos, whether it be question and answers in polls and videos together. They're becoming more and more applicable. When you have the ability to nurture a larger audience in a social channel and introduce content that is a lot more interactive, your correlation to closed business will increase. The direct causation is still something that is being worked through, but I can tell you that from a practice perspective, this is one of the forward-leaning best practices that we recommend to most of our customers. So as a company that sits in the social space, that spends our days at Facebook and spends our days with other companies like Facebook, I thought I'd leave you with a couple of thoughts. The first is that as you're thinking about investing in social channels today, as you're thinking about RPM and marketing automation, don't disconnect the two. The way that the future of evolution in content consumption is moving, in our opinion, is that content, which has been pushed into the stream, popularized by Facebook and Twitter, is going to continue to get richer. So it's even more important that you start to think about investments in core business infrastructure, like marketing automation, and then visualize and design the way that these experiences are going to work inside of the stream. So with that, I'm going to hand it back to Joe, but I do want to say in closing, we see, regardless of the size of the business, massive value in using marketing automation and conceptually RPM. And we have supreme confidence that regardless of the size of the business that you are, you can see that as well.
Thank you.